When we discuss the cycle in the ovary, that is ovarian cycle, or something, anything about the female reproductive system or the embryology, we have to start with the ovary. And in the ovary, we have seen that there are so many things. That means the follicle, that means primary follicle, secondary follicle, Graafian follicle, and sometimes it is the primordial follicle. And in the parallelly, there is the oocyte. There might be the primary oocyte, secondary oocyte, and oogonia. These might confuse you. In the ovary, we see some small sacs. This is the follicle. This is known as the primordial follicle, and then it is the primary follicle. This is the secondary follicle, and this is the Graafian follicle. And within the follicle, there is the oocyte. Here is the primary oocyte. We see here is the primary oocyte, and here we see the secondary oocyte. So now we want to clear what is this thing. For the start of our discussion, we want to clear these follicles first. Follicle. Here we can see the follicle. This is the primordial follicle. Here we can see there is the oocyte in the center, and this oocyte is surrounded by the follicular cell, and there are some stromal cell. In this picture, if we see it very closely, here is the oocyte, and surrounding there is the follicular cell, and outside the follicular cell, these are the stromal cell. So here is the primordial follicle, where we can see the oocyte, the follicular cell, and the stromal cell. With the time being, this primordial follicle forms the primary follicle. Here we see that the oocyte is in the center, and this oocyte secretes a layer of glycoprotein. This is known as the zona pellucida. It covers the oocyte. And outside the zona pellucida, there was the follicular cell. This follicular cell now, these are the flat cell. Here we can see there is the cuboidal cell. It is grown up. With the time being, this follicular cell that surrounds the zona pellucida, they proliferate. Here we see there is a single layer of the follicular cell, and this is known as the primary follicle and unilaminar. This is the unilaminar primary follicle. This lamina or the follicular cell now proliferate to form the multiple layers. This is the multilaminar primary follicle. And here we see there is the zona pellucida, there is the oocyte, and this multilaminar follicular cell, now known as the granulosal cell. This is the granulosa cell. So the follicular cell, now known as the granulosal cell. Up to this is the primary follicle. That means there is the center oocyte surrounded by the follicular cell. This is known as the primary follicle. All the journey from the primordial to the multilaminar primary follicle, all this course, it has the main characteristic that the central oocyte surrounded by the follicular cell. Name of the follicular cell is different in different phases, but this is the primary follicle. Now the secondary follicle. Here is the secondary follicle. Now we can see that fluid accumulation within the granulosal cell. Within the granulosal cell, we see that the fluid accumulation. So now this is known as the secondary, as there is the fluid. This is the secondary follicle, and this fluid is known as the antrum. And here is the oocyte, and now this antrum enlarges to form a large antrum where the oocyte remains at the side of this follicle. This is known as the mature follicle, or in the name of the Graphian follicle. It is the Graphian follicle. So this is the follicle in different stages. In our description we can see that the primary follicle, secondary follicle, and the Graphian follicle. Now we are clear what is this follicle. Now we can see that here in the primary follicle you can see the primary oocyte, and in the Graphian follicle you can see the secondary oocyte. So confusion arises in these terms, primary oocyte, secondary oocyte. For this description of the primary and secondary oocyte, we have to go to the gonad where the oocyte develops. The gonad, in the gonad we know that the division in the gonadal cell, there are special type of cell divisions occur in the gonad, that is the meiosis. Here we see that there is an ovary where we see the oogonia. Oogonias are the primordial oocytes that are connected with each other, forming the syncytial pattern. This is the oogonia. From this they convert into the primary oocyte. The formation of oogonia is the division with mitosis. And these oogonia proliferate with mitosis. Then they enter into the meiosis. Meiosis, we know that meiosis has two parts, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. This oogonia that are the syncytial, that means one cell is attached with another cell. They are separate from each other and forming this primary oocyte. This primary oocyte then enters into the meiotic cell division. Here the meiotic cell division starts from the oogonia, from the primary oocyte. That means the formation of oogonia by the division of mitosis and the formation of oocyte from the primary to secondary with the division of meiosis. In the meiosis, we know that meiosis has different two stages. One is the meiosis 1 and another is the meiosis 2. Here we can see the meiosis, meiotic cell division. Here is the meiotic cell division. Here all the stages of the meiosis. Here is the first meiotic division, where there is the prophase. It is a long prophase, that is prophase on, then the metaphase on, prophase, metaphase, then the telophase on, then the metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and the telophase 2. Final is the 4 gonadal cells. In the meiotic cell division, the oogonia, from the oogonia, the formation of the primary oocyte, this primary oocyte enters into this meiotic cell division. They remain in this long prophase stage. In the long prophase stage, we can see the here the primary oocyte. Here is the ovary of a 4-month-old embryo. Here is the ovary of a 7-month-old embryo. Here we can see the primary oocyte in the prophase. Prophase, we know the prophase. This prophase is known is the prophase on. We know the prophase on has different stages like leptotin, zygotin, pacitin, diplotin, and the diakinesis, like this. This prophase stage in the 7-month-old embryo, the oocyte remains in the primary oocyte in prophase. In the next picture, we see the newborn ovary. In the newborn ovary, here we see this is a follicle. Follicle is lined by the follicular cell, and it is the unilaminar follicular cell. This is the primary follicle, and it has the central oocyte. This oocyte is the primary oocyte, and in stage in the diplotin stage. So diplotin stage, and this remains up to the puberty in this diplotin stage. After that, this division progress to form the secondary oocyte when this first meiotic division completes. For the clarification of this thing, I want to describe the first meiotic division. In the first meiotic division, there has the prophase on, there has the metaphase on, telophase on. In the prophase on, there are some stages where the cell enters, and in the ovary the cell remain from birth to the puberty. The oocyte remains in this stage. So in the meiosis on, we can see here all the chromosomes of seen here. Here is the two chromosomes. Say for example, if it is the number 10 chromosome, here is two chromosome. It is the number 10th chromosome of father. It is the chromosome of mother. The homologous chromosome comes together. This process is known as the synapsis. These stages are the within the prophase. So first the homologous chromosomes comes nearer to form the synapsis, and it is the zygotin stage of the prophase. Then this maternal and paternal chromosome divides into the chromatid. Here we can see this is the white chromosome. It divides into two chromatids, and here is the black chromosome that divides into the two chromatids. This is the sister chromatids. These are the sister chromatids. Now this is the Pachytin stage. In the diplotin stage, there is the crossover. Here the black chromatid crosses over the white chromatid. Here is the here is the chiasma formation. This is the chiasma formation, and this chiasma formation, and after that this black part is removed from here, and this white part is removed from here, and they are interchanged. We can see here the white chromosome contains this black part, and this black chromosome contains this white part. This is the crossover. So this is the zygotin, this is the pachytin. Here is the diplotin, where the chromosome where the chiasma formation occurs and the crossover occurs. In the ovary of the newborn to the puberty, the oocyte, the primary oocyte, remains in this stage. They form the chiasma, and they and there is the crossover that causes the diversification in the genetic material in the ovary. They remain in this stage of the prophase, first meiotic division in the prophase stage. They remain up to the puberty in this stage. After the puberty, with the stimulation of the follicle stimulating hormone, this stage of the oocyte, they progress further, and they complete this metaphase and the telophase. Finally, they form two oocyte. This oocyte now known as the secondary oocyte. So this is the on cell. This on cell remains in this first meiotic division from birth to the puberty. In the puberty, they divide into two cells, forming the secondary oocyte, and they contain the haploid number of the chromosomes. Here the diploid number in the primary oocyte. In the secondary oocyte, they contain the haploid number of the chromosomes. So in our description here, we see that the primary oocyte in this primary follicle, and in the Graafian follicle there is the secondary oocyte. So the confusion about the primary follicle and secondary follicle. What is the difference between primary follicle and secondary follicle? It is the antrum. It is the antrum that remains in the secondary follicle, but no antrum in the primary follicle. It is the difference. And Graafian follicle is more mature form of the secondary follicle. And what is primary oocyte? Primary oocyte is the oocyte that contains the diploid number of chromosome, and they remain in the diplotin stage of the first meiosis, first meiotic division. They remain in this form. After completion of the first meiotic division, they form the secondary oocyte. So I think that what is the confusion about the primary follicle, secondary follicle, Graafian follicle, and the confusion about the primary oocyte and the secondary oocyte, I think now it is clear that secondary oocyte is the haploid gonadal cell. This haploid gonadal cell unite with the sperm in the process of fertilization to form the diploid zygote. So the primary oocyte and secondary oocyte, now it is clear. When there is the ovulation, the secondary oocyte is released. And what is ovum? Ovum is the fertilized secondary oocyte, is known as the ovum. And what is oogonia? Oogonia is the primordial oocyte that has the syncytial attachment, and they are proliferate with mitotic cell division. So I think the confusion about the ovarian cycle, primary oocyte, secondary oocyte, primary follicle, secondary oocyte is now it is clear. Thank you all.